Millions watched this scary scene as Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa was forced to leave last night's game against the Buffalo Bills after suffering an apparent concussion. This is not the first time something like this has happened to the 26-year-old, and it has many people around the NFL calling for him to retire. Here to discuss the long-term effects concussions can have on the brain is Chief of the Brain Injury Rehabilitation Division for the Spaulding Rehabilitation Network, Dr. Daneshvar. It's great to have you here. Such an important topic. We know that you weren't actually down on the field, but from your perspective, walk us through what you think happened.
So it's obviously very difficult to say for sure without evaluating Mr. Tagovailoa in real time. But what we all saw was a pretty substantial hit to the head, and afterwards some very concerning signs of a concussion. And that's the signs that I'm referring to were the apparent fall and the fencing posturing that we all saw, which was where he kind of shook his arms. That was an indication that a brain injury almost certainly occurred.
Yeah, and as you're talking there, we were watching the scene play out. It is concerning. As I mentioned, many are calling on the young QB to call it quits. Do you think that this concern for Tua's long-term health is warranted?
I think that just like any injury to anywhere else in your body, if you get repeated brain injuries, you're at risk of having more problems. So, like, for example, no one would be surprised that if he hit his shoulder and it popped out of its socket, and then it happened again, and then it happened again and again, that would be associated with weakness of the shoulder and longer term problems in his shoulder. Your brain is no different. If you injure your brain, you're more likely to have long-term problems associated with it.
In recent years, we've also begun to understand more about what CTE is, how it can affect people. Of course, it's been associated with pro football, as we're discussing, but anyone can suffer from this disease. Tell us more about who's at risk, the challenges to understanding and even to treating it.
So CTE is caused by repeated traumatic brain injuries. So it's never one brain injury. It's people who get hundreds or thousands of brain injuries. And your brain doesn't care what hits it. So we mostly have talked about it in professional football, but it was first described in boxers. It was called dementia pugilistica, or the punch drunk syndrome, right? But it's also been found, unfortunately, in individuals who experience intimate partner violence. It's been found in military veterans. It's been found in a whole host of people who get repeated hits to the head. But the important thing is, it's not concussions that are causing CTE. It's the repeated head hits. Whether or not they cause symptoms, whether or not they have the fencing posturing that Tua had, those repeated hits to the head to the tune of hundreds or thousands of hits a season over many years, that's what puts people at risk of CTE.
Hopefully more research will help us understand this disease even more. Dr. Daneshvar, thank you for joining us and have a great weekend.